This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, why you'll be thankful for your client-side implementation consultant. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, why you will be thankful for your client-side implementation consultant. Shawn Windle is one of our speakers for today. Shawn is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Shawn has over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software industry, helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. And then we have Kaylee. Kaylee is our special guest joining us for today. Kaylee is a client-side implementation consultant at ERP Advisors Group and has helped dozens of clients successfully go live across a variety of solutions and industries. Kaylee applies her previous project coordination and IT project support experience to help clients navigate the complicated and often missed milestones of every successful ERP implementation. We are very thankful for her. On today's call, Kaylee and Shawn will provide structure to a notoriously risky industry and give some real-world examples of how support from a client-side implementation consultant can mean the difference between ERP migration success and failure. Welcome, Kaylee and Shawn.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Rebecca, as always.
Yeah, yes. Of course. And Kaylee, happy to have you. I know this is your first ERP advisor, so we'll hopefully we won't scare you too much.
Exactly.
With some of the questions.
The topics are scary enough.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, goodness. Want you to be confident as you're telling all these clients who I'm sure are very uncertain about their ERP implementations right now. Mm-hmm. But that being said, this really has been the year of ERP implementations for us. We've had lots of clients come to us who needed the help, that they weren't necessarily aware of a selection consultant, and then suddenly they found us for recovery efforts. And then we've had plenty of our own clients who came through the entire process and are working on implementations with us. So just to kick this off, Shawn, I'll have you start.
Great.
Even though it is one of the most important things to get right, why is it so easy for an ERP implementation to go wrong?
Oh, God. Oh, Lordy. We're like all in at this point.
Right.
So it's pretty wild, right? I mean, you think like you buy this and it like goes in and everything's fine. And I mean, we've been talking about this for years, but I think ultimately what it comes down to is when, I'm going to say this, uninformed buyers. That's all it is. So, hey, I want to get an ERP. I'm going to go talk to somebody. I'm going to make a 1-800 call. Okay, great. I'm going to buy this and I'm going to implement it and I'm going to move on. And like, that's it. That it is so the opposite of that, right? Like, but it just doesn't seem obvious that you, the organization that has purchased the software, has so much stuff that you have to do. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you've selected implementation resources. It could be professional services of a software vendor, could be a partner, and that they know your industry and you vetted them and you made sure they have experience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Definitely do that, right? That's all the selection stuff. But then you're like, shoo, okay, God, these guys and gals are great. It's going to be fine. I'm just going to kick back, relax, and take a vacation. And we have a client right now who's in the middle of his implementation on a vacation. It ain't no vacation. There's so many things to do on the client side. And I've said this before, if you look at page, sometimes it's 34, sometimes it's page 340 of a statement of work, there'll be a table in there that says, client, here's what we expect of you. We need a sponsor. We need project managers. We need business analysts. We need subject matter experts. We need technical advisor, like data migration people. We need you to run your integrations. We need da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the list just goes on. And a lot of times people just don't see it. So it's all there. And, I think the folks that have been through ERP implementations, they kind of know it, right? You kind of been through it, then you experience it. But I think at the end of the day, it also comes down to, this is the rational way that I would say this, that when somebody is compensated to do something, they're going to get that done. So if you have software people that are selling software and they're compensated to sell software, they want to sell the software, right? That's their job. That's what they do. That's great. We need people that can sell software. But those people, you get a couple different types of people there, but most of them can sort of look at the client and ask a few questions and be like, OMG, these guys don't have enough resources to do it. And the good software salespeople would say, hey, here's what you should also consider, right? So I think there's a lot of people out there that sell software that can sort of enlighten those that maybe they don't realize it. But unfortunately, there's a lot that don't too. Even was just in a meeting this morning and somebody was talking about their implementation. It was a very, very big implementation and they spent about $30 million, 30. I had to do that. I said, did you say 3? Or did you say 30? I need hand signals on the analysis to then go into the implementation, which they were really disappointed with. It's just really tricky. I think the easiest way to explain this, you guys have to keep me honest here for sure, is it's like buying a model. I've never used this analogy, like a really intricate model, whatever it is that you're building the model of, and you have no instructions for how to put it together. There's all these pieces out there, and you're like, well, of course, the company that I bought it from, it's like buying a big old model. You could say Legos, there's Legos back there, right? Without the book of instructions on how, you just assume there's a book of instructions. Right. It's even worse though, because there usually is a book in there and you're like, this is the playbook, this is the blueprint, this is whatever on the implementation. But the thing is that the model is your business.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So whoever the software vendor, the implementation partners, they've never implemented for your business coming off of your legacy custom proprietary systems to their applications. So every single implementation is like this unique beast, like a beast that you kind of have to understand that uniqueness of the trifecta, again, of the software, the implementation partner, the client people. You can talk a ton to this. Mm-hmm. And then this is what this sort of thing needs to look like, this hodgepodge. Here's how we can put it together and then we can go forward.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, you hear the terms about cookie cutter implementations all the time, and that's not a thing. Like,
if
anybody tells you this is just going to be another cookie cutter implementation, absolutely not.
Run.
You're not going to pull something out of a drawer.
As my favorite band, One Republic, says, run away.
Oh, honestly.
That's right. Just run away.
Yeah, because no one's ever implemented your instance of your ERP at this time of the economy with your people, with all the moving pieces.
That's
it.
Yeah.
So. And I mean, that being said, this call really is all about how, Kaylee, you get your job done and the role that you play in these ERP implementations. So why do clients need a client-side implementation consultant? And I mean, doesn't the implementation consultant handle everything?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's like you've been talking about all year. One of the big misconceptions is that the vendor can do everything. And so we're in such a unique situation where the client, most of them haven't done an implementation. They have their day job as well as trying to do the implementation. And then the partner is very focused on configuring the system. It needs to work for you. So we get to step back and look at all of it. The client, the partner, look at the whole process, where are we at, and then notice the areas that are maybe falling behind. So client's very focused, partner's very focused, and we can say, we might be forgetting about training, or we haven't really looked at change management, or who's documenting all these decisions we're making. So we get to look at all of it, see where the holes are, and then fill in those holes, give suggestions to the client on how to handle those, and we see it early. So you're not, oh shoot, we're here and we forgot to create training. How are we going to train our people? So I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, and it could even be we forgot to create training for this type of user.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, we're never going to forget training. Like, that's ridiculous. Oh, yeah. Like, we have a client right now they're only, 1,000 people, 2,000. And when we put together the training plan, there's like 8 different kinds of users that are out there. And this is for human capital management. Like, you think it's simple, right? But, there's contract employees that really just do time entry, right? And then there's employees that do time entry, expense entry. And they have to see their checks, so there's some core HR stuff, right? So I think that's what I see you guys do a lot on our team is like you see these holes that they seem so obvious, right? When you're like, oh yeah, well for the training, that's great, but you also need to do blah. Oh yeah, of course we do, right? So then they can do it, right? You sort of facilitate them to actually, whether the implementation partner writes the training, the client does, or our team, right? We sort of plug those holes, but we see the holes. We figure out who should fill them, and if nobody else will do it, You do it.
Yep.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Yep.
Everybody loves Kaylee on their projects. I'm telling you.
Yeah. And I think she said it perfectly when we were preparing for this call. She said, we're the doers.
Yep.
And that really is so valuable to so many of our clients that are on these projects. And I know the statistic nowadays is with ERP implementations, 50 to 75% of ERP implementations fail. And that number varies every year. I mean, you see different factors.
Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, honestly.
I know. This is why we need you.
And because of that, I mean, what we do is so important to our clients. And really, if you need help with your ERP implementation, we are always here for guidance. And if you're watching live, there is going to be a link in the chat to schedule a consultation. Erica's great, gives all of her free advice. But anybody else who is watching after the fact, that graphic will pop up on your screen. You can scan the QR code or go to the link and schedule a consultation, find some more of our content. Or if you are listening on the podcast, all of that information and all of our resources will be in the show notes. But all of that being said, after my shameless plug,
Love it.
what are the common things missed during an ERP implementation?
Yeah, I would say there's 4 initial areas that come to mind. The first is data migration, which I know we talk about all the time. Yeah. Yeah, it's always, I mean, the big thing there is I don't think clients realize how early you can start data migration. Like, you can start it before you even start your implementation. You can start cleaning your data, looking at it, finding all the duplicates or things that aren't consistent, and start working through that. And there's just the whole data process, which again, I know is talked about quite a bit.
Not enough, girl, not enough.
Yeah, but that's definitely the first big one, I would say. The second one is integrations, for sure. That's another, I think, misconception that the partner will be able to tell you, here's all your systems and how they'll all integrate and let's make it work. And that's just not typically a part of their scope of work. So really noticing, obviously you're going to know about the big ones. If you're getting an AP automation solution, you're going to know about that. But maybe it's the bank. How are we integrating the bank? Or HR and payroll. Are we just going to manually export and import? Are we making it automated? If it's automated, who's doing it? How do we need a middleware? So just all of those details is something that can be missed. And it's important to figure it out early too, because we need to make sure we're testing it. So before we go live, okay, we had all these systems. We said how they were all going to connect. Do they actually connect? Is it bringing the data we expect? And so that whole process.
Wait, you're saying that doesn't just happen?
Yeah,
PMH,
just magically,
magic
here we
happens.
go.
I don't just wake up the next day and all my integrations are...
That would
No,
be
you
ideal.
have to snap your fingers 4 times.
Right, and I think that was the most shocking for me. Like, you were
Yeah.
talking about the implementations, like the bank. People I don't
Yeah.
even think about that. That's something
Yep.
where you're like, oh yeah, all my systems are going to talk to each other. Are they, though?
Mhm.
Right.
Well, the vendor said they
Aren't
would.
though? There you go.
Mhm.
Okay, well, how did the vendor tell you how they were going
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
to? Well, no, they're just going to take care of it.
Right.
Absolutely not. They're not going to take care of it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you spoke a little bit about the testing, and you mentioned previously, like, change management. I know that you have a huge role in that, especially during filling some of those gaps. Do you want to go a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, I would say change management's definitely kind of that third one where you're so busy. Everyone's busy, right? You can always say you're busy. So, and that's, always on the client. So the implementation partner won't really do much around the change management. Again, they're very busy configuring your system, making it the best it can be. As a client, you have your normal job trying to communicate to the vendor that sometimes change management just no one addresses it. And so it is important to think through, are there certain groups of people that might struggle more? Maybe it impacts them more, or the way that we're doing it will change dramatically. And having a plan for, maybe it's we need to send them once a month, send them an email telling them, hey, we just finished this great new, like, look, you're going to have this awesome capability, or whatever it might be, rather than we don't talk about it, we go live, and then they're upset and we have to do damage control. So thinking about that early, coming up with the plan is something that, we can add a lot of value to, because we have the time to think about that early on instead of wait until the end.
Right. It's those proactive implementations that succeed. It's the reactive ones that are just another statistic. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else to add to that, Shawn?
Well, was there 4th?
Yeah, my 4th one is testing and training.
Oh, testing and
Yes.
training. Love it.
Yeah, so kind of moving into my last one, testing and training, just kind of combining them. Again, it's just during the implementation, you're thinking about, okay, I need to communicate to this vendor, try to learn how to speak their language, tell them what I need to do. okay, well, who's documenting all of this? So we say that we need to be able to do a certain process in the system. We also need to be able to test on that process and train on that process. So thinking through, here are specific things we need to test. Another misconception, a lot of vendors won't put together specific test cases for you. They might have general ones, specific ones, not usually. So that's something we can make sure we're documenting. Here are these specific things. We really need to make sure this works. And then same thing with training is, again, people are busy. They're trying to get through the configuration. And then you get to training and you realize, I didn't really write anything down. Or I forgot there's this group that maybe it's only an hour of training, but we kind of forgot about them. And now they don't know what to do. So just things that we can start on early while, the client is focused on explaining their needs. We can start thinking about the training and the testing.
Right. And frankly, you don't want the partner doing that. You don't want the partner creating the specific use cases or during user acceptance testing, because they aren't going to know what you want your people to know. And correct me if I'm wrong, is that a time that you also are able to find, maybe areas that could be configured even better, or work with the partner to fix the system if they find something along the way?
Yeah, definitely kind of best practices, like going through the clients explaining how they're doing it today. Well, let's make sure we're not just recreating a broken system. So making sure we're implementing best practices. And sometimes another thing that we'll document and keep track of, which is important, is to realize maybe there's, we see something for improvement. Maybe it's not phase one, right? We don't have to have the best, perfect, amazing built out system to go live. But let's go live, and then those items that we said, hey, this could be a lot better, we're going to document those, track them. After you go live, we'll come back and say, hey, now here are all the enhancements we have. Here are the ways that we can continue to build and make your system better.
Right. Wonderful. Do you have anything else to add to that, Shawn?
Well, I would like to compare change management to popcorn.
Oh, okay. I was like, are we going back to this Cheeto analogy?
I tried the Cheeto analogy this morning with a group of people, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
So popcorn analogy.
Popcorn
So
is where it's at. So I don't even know why. I just wanted to grab the popcorn. I'm dropping the Cheeto analogy on change management. I would say, though, that for real, here, we'll put that right there. The whole project, whether we talk about it or not, is for the management of change. So just like you said, there's things up front that just take for frickin' ever to change. Data, right? There's, again, in this meeting this morning, one of the participants who just been through a big SAP S4 HANA implementation said they were like shocked at how hard the data was, and they had hired a team of people, literally a company that just does data migration with all the data migration tools. Oh, we got it, no problem. They're like, oh, sure, fine. It didn't work at all. So, we're changing data. We're changing our integrations. We're changing people, right? And then we're changing the software. So you've got to follow a process that isn't just about configuring the app and then, okay, we'll throw it over the fence, test it, and then go live. You actually there's so much change. I don't know if a business, a nonprofit, government agency, I don't know if they ever go through this much change. Well, maybe the federal government will coming up here. That's another story for another time. But really at any given time in the maturation or the evolution of a company or an organization, I should say, as much change as they incur in an ERP implementation, right? Think about all your clients. The amount of change that happens is so significant, and people are busy and everything else. And it doesn't matter if you hire hundreds of consultants to come in and do this. The people that are working for these companies or running these companies, these nonprofits, everything else, man, you're just like, you're not just pulling the rug from underneath them. You're pulling like the house out. And they're just like exposed, Oh, but here's a new one. Go into it and you'll be fine. Here's, we've got some of the vendors we work with, bless them. We do training 2 days before the go live for 3,000 people. Okay. I hate you. Okay, really? I love people. I'm like the nicest guy I try to be, unless when things come up like yesterday. But like, I really want to strangle them when that happens. We're like, oh no, that's not going to work. We had a client that went live with payroll recently. They had a really interesting employee base of people with special needs. And, we ended up like me,
yeah.
several others of us, we would have grabbed even more people, just went out on site and just helped them with just getting through the change because it was so significant. So the bottom line is when you think of popcorn, think of change management, and then you're set.
Wonderful.
No more Cheetos.
Yeah, now it's going to be a meme of Shawn just being like, I hate you.
Exactly, right?
Up against the mic. We're going to start
That's
sending
right.
it around the office.
You don't want that. You don't want that.
Partner messes up. They
Just
get a letter.
email.
It's a printed version of Shawn. Well, you've kind of touched on this, both of you, a little bit. But what types of deliverables do you create for the clients? And, why do they matter at the end of the day?
Oh, goodness. There's so many. I would say we have all of our tracking tools where we're documenting key decisions that were made, the future enhancements, the action items. So all of that we're tracking. But then I would also go into integration maps. So we talked about integrations earlier. So we'll create a visual for you of here's your applications. How will they connect? Is it manual? Is it automated? What data is passing between them? So that's a big one to really, again, just visuals really help people understand what's happening. Change management, we won't just talk about it, but there's an actual plan we can put in place, even as specific a communication plan as, hey, we're sending this email on this date to this group of people. We can get, sometimes all that detail isn't needed, but depending on the scenario, we also have training documentation. I'm actually working on training documentation for a client right now where they do want a lot of detail and they want us to do as much as we can because they know that their employees are very overloaded already. So that can be how to create a purchase order. Click on this, navigate to this, here's a screenshot, just making it as easy as possible for those users. And so there's a lot of documentation that we can provide around those topics.
And wouldn't you say that some of the vendors provide, how-tos on something like a purchase order?
Yes.
Like say it's, Oracle. Okay, good. So there's a how-to that Oracle wrote, right? Some training specialist, right? Then there's like the implementation partner may have some material. Sometimes they don't, right? That's for you, client, here's how you do a PO. But it's like, right? Sometimes they just need like a page, right? Or like a little laminated card or something super simple. So there's all of these chasms. They're really not like gaps. They're like a chasm that gets created across every phase of the project where it's like, oh yeah, we're just going to go in and understand the requirements. Okay, but does the client have the right people in the room to say what the requirements are, right? Here's the chasm.
Right.
Did we, did the actual consultant ask the right questions? Did they really understand the industry enough to say if it's chemicals manufacturing, so when you guys are doing batches, do you do this or do you do that, right? Like maybe the consultant doesn't know those questions to even ask, and the client doesn't even know to give the data because they just assume that the vendor knows.
Right.
So, we fill every single one of those chasms miraculously, like literally. And I don't know how a client can do it without those kinds of people, right? I mean, it's really almost by luck.
Right. And we also, you and I have talked about this, Shawn. We definitely have a client who had a very, very unique situation in terms of user acceptance testing because they're so prevalent in hiring people with special needs and they have different programs for that. And so, even with that, the vendor's training program is not going to work for your people. Like Kaylee, another Kelby, they have to come into the project and, hey, their original training plan is not going to work for your people. And so there's always nuances too. Going back to no one's ever implemented your instance of this solution at this time with your people.
That's it.
Wonderful.
I think that to that point though, that is at the end of the day exactly what we do, right? We have a great tool set. We've developed it. I started it. You guys have taken it to whole new levels, like the races things that we're doing on some different things, which are just great. But it really is. We can. I don't know. I guess it's a luxury. We're kind of like a luxury. Like we can focus on this right now, what's happening right now. The implementation partners are so dang busy.
Right.
They're like, oh, we've got best practices and this is what we do and blah, 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 blah. And I used to be one of them. No offense, guys. But it gets a little robotic, right? They used to call us androids from Accenture. Anyway, long story. But, we're so focused on what's happening today with this company. Where is it going? What are the needs? What's happening with the enterprise software? What's happening with the partner? I think that's right.
Yeah. And that perfect segue into our next question, which, of course we get to know them. We know that we get to know them, but how do you get to know them well enough that you can actually create all of these deliverables?
Yeah. I mean, you think about an implementation and it's a year plus. So first, you're just spending a lot of time with these people.
Right.
And so I think part of it too is it's my job. Like, it's my job to get to know you, to get to know what your business needs, and to get, where do you need me? Where do you need help? Like, what can I do for you? So I think being in the sessions, hearing about the business, and of course, if they came through our selection, then we even have that knowledge there, and we get to talk to our consultants across the company. But just being in those meetings, paying attention, asking questions. I know I'm not implementing your solution for you, but I need to understand what's going on as well so that I can help you and guide you and create some of this documentation. So it's just paying attention, also partnering with the client. So if I don't understand something, maybe I'm creating some training, and then I'll meet with the client, say, hey, is this right? Is this what we're thinking? Like, where am I off? And just having those continued conversations just deepens my knowledge of the client.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're really focused on the why, right? It's not just the what. I mean, we know what we want to get out of this system.
Yes.
But can you talk a little bit too about like why the why is so important?
Yeah, if your people don't know the why, they're not going to accept the system. Like, if you can't show them, like, hey, we're going to gain efficiencies here, you're going to save so much time here, you won't have to, sit and manually move all this data over every single time, then they're going to really get behind it and be engaged and want to do it. And that also helps with, again, documenting. You don't just want to document, okay, click this, do this. It's like, okay, well, here's the process. Like, here's a process map. Here's how it all fits together. They need to understand why they're doing things, even how it affects other areas of the business. I think that's something I've seen recently on some of my clients is they were like, hey, can we just get a quick overview of how the whole process goes together? Like, I just want to see how me entering accurate data and not skipping a few steps does actually help people down the line. So,
right. It's holistic. It's not one-sided at all. Do you have anything to add to that, Shawn?
I mean, if you think about your personal life and, maybe you have a significant other and they're like, hey, let's paint the house inside. You're like, okay, I think the paint color's fine, but that's all right. I don't understand why, but sure, because I want to be nice. So then they're like, great. So then they go to wherever, they pick out all this paint, and they're like, okay, let's do the painting. Great. So we have to start with the masking. We got to put everything in this. And you're kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't sign up for all this. I thought you were going to do it. Well, no, I thought you were going to do it, darling.
I like that analogy. That's a good one.
Or they're like,
I was
okay,
on board when it was
fine.
your plan.
We'll hire somebody to come in. Well, it's fine. Okay, great. And then they come back and say, okay, well, it's going to be $5,000. Wait a minute. I didn't want this. Why are we doing this?
Right.
And then they get mad and they fight. They sleep in different rooms and it's ugly.
Oh, my goodness.
Not that we've all been through that, right? But if the two people come together at the beginning and say, wow, somebody says, gosh, this paint's terrible. And they're like, well, I don't really see that. We're like, no, listen, blah, da, 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 da. Oh, you know what? I understand the why. Let's go. It just flows. So ERP is no different than that. And we even tell clients, we have 2 clients right now that we're saying, look, this is such a big change for you guys. If you don't agree to do this, if you don't all agree on the why to do this, do nothing.
Yeah.
Because it is going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of resources, a lot of time. You're taking time out of your busy schedules. You're taking time away from other strategic initiatives. And somebody else later on is going to say, what about me? What about this project? What about that? And you're like, I don't have it because I'm doing this. So the why is super important at just a high level. But even on every single one of the steps or the phases, why are we doing these integrations? Why this data migration? Why this change management plan with training and compensation management and all this stuff? Everything's going to go a lot better if that's just agreed to, for sure.
Definitely. And as we kind of go into our last question, I just want to remind everybody who's on the call that you can please submit your questions during this call while we're live right now. If you're watching after the fact, please let us know. We are always here to help. We have lots of amazing resources that are willing, able, not always available.
Erica
is always available
is.
to answer your questions. Again, you can submit those questions in the consultation form or the contact us when you visit the website. But To wrap this up, what do you do as a client-side implementation consultant, Kaylee, that the clients are most thankful for as we go into Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Most thankful for. I mean, I think it's our ability to be flexible and fill in the gaps or the chasms, wherever it is. And we do stuff. We don't mind doing stuff. So we're not just going to say, oh, look, there's a chasm over there. Here are some ideas. Go try to fix it. Yeah. When they're already working 60 hours a week trying to do their job and implement, we can say, hey, we see this chasm. Here's how I'm going to fix it for you. Just us doing stuff and stepping in has been one of the things that I've heard a lot of clients say to me of, oh, we just briefly mentioned on a call that we want a document comparing our current terminology to the new system's terminology. Right. Just briefly mentioned it, and then you went and did it, and then we have it. And it's just being proactive and then able to fill in wherever they need us. So maybe another example would be if we're working really hard on creating test cases, and they go, hey, we're working on this. I think we have a good grasp, but our training is really struggling. Okay, we'll just pop over there. There's no set in stone. We only do this every single time. It's we get to know the client. What do they need? And we do whatever we need to get them live. And I think our clients see that, they will go live, and we will get them live, and we will do whatever we need to do to get them live. So,
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely would. I started the company in 2010, and my first project was client-side implementation. I don't know if you knew that. You did.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I saw sort of how all this stuff, because I had implemented before, I was technical, but or more functional, right? But as I knew all this stuff basically, but really fleshed out this process over many years. And then you've joined us. I think we have Shelby, who's with us. We have Curtis. We've got even really Kelly, and then some others that are just really strong, tons and tons of years of experience. Mm-hmm. But it's not about just the experience. And we've had other people that we've talked to or interviewed that had lots of experience, but they didn't have that mindset that you just said, which is we'll do anything. Christina's another one on our team who's amazing. She'll just do anything, right? We know what we can do and what we can't do. We're going to tell you we can't do blah, but here's how we can solve that. There's that chasm over there, like you said, around anything, and we'll figure it out. So, for me, even I think about these calls and people listening, this one's going to be in our hat for client-side implementation for sure. This video. Yeah. I want other people to hear this. Not just prospects who I would love for you to talk to you about how we can help, yes. But even for recruits that are looking at ERP Advisors Group and becoming a client-side implementation specialist, you really have to have a passion for learning and growing and doing new things. I think a lot of people have that, but your confront has to be high. You have to be willing to go, oh my God, that is a problem there. I'm just going to go do this. No. You can always talk to you. You can talk to me. You can talk to Rebecca. You can talk to Will. What's up, Will?
Talk to Will.
You can always talk to any of us. Charlie's here. Hey, we got a whole team of people that want to help, and we'll figure out a way to help. Right. And that is the fundamental thing that, unfortunately, clients get so busy, like you said. Even if they have dedicated people on a project, they don't know what they don't know. Implementation people are great people, but they're so focused on getting this job done that it's even hard for them sometimes to see this stuff. You, clients, pay us to do exactly that. And we do a phenomenal job. I would say better than anybody else. So what this all means to me, right? I mean, you guys all know, really want to grow the business, but I won't unless we have phenomenal people that are committed to the mission. But it's really that important, though, that we stay focused on really doing something that nobody else is willing to do. That's why I started the real reason why I started the company was my last firm. I said, guys, I think we should do more client-side implementation services, and they kind of said, no, that's too risky. ERP projects 50 to 75% fail. We don't want anything to do with that. And I'm like, yeah, we do. I just help them negotiate a deal and get into this stuff. I can't turn around and. Now that firm does this stuff too, but I think we do it better, as do people we've hired from there. Anyway, long story short, I am so proud that when I look a client in the eye, which I do all the time when we're on sales calls and that say, you will have a successful go live, then I know it's going to happen. I mean, the methodology is just there. But it's because of people like you, Kaylee, that I know you'll do everything and anything you can. Sometimes they've asked you to, you travel, you get back like at 2 a.m. Like there's a lot of stuff you kind of go through, but you're a pro, right? You're really a great representation of what I've always dreamed of being able to provide to clients. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really mean it.
Wonderful. And so moral of the story, contact us.
Please.
And
Please let me help you.
Yes,
let us help
exactly.
you. That's really all we want to do. We want to make a difference for our clients. So if you are struggling, just know that you're not alone and there are resources out there. But thank you again, Kaylee, for joining us for the first time. Shawn, always a pleasure. And thank you to everyone who joined us for today's call. Please let us know if you have any questions that we can answer. And be sure to join us for our next webinar, which is scheduled for Thursday, December 12th, How AI Will Actually Impact Your Organization, where Shawn will advise executives on what AI really is, the practical AI financial and accounting tools available on the market, and what impacts AI will have on the office of the CFO over the next 5+ years. Really excited. I've seen it all. It's wonderful. So if you can join us, please do. Please go to our website, erpadvisorsgroup.com, for more details and to register. And this is eligible for a free CPE credit. So I do highly encourage anybody who needs that to join us. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-sized businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equate to millions of dollars in software deals across many industries each year. This has been the ERP Advisor. Thank you again for joining us.